It was complete lunacy in Lisbon. I don't know how else to say it. That was one of the most outrageous football matches I have ever seen. There are times where I felt like we were having a huge referendum and it was time to hit the panic button. And then by the end of it, I'm just saying, and here's the fifth headline, it was the silliest of remontadas that I've ever seen. This is, as I've said, the craziest match I have been a part of when it comes to FC Barcelona since that remontada, which happened just a few months before I started this podcast, now going on 8 years ago. That was one of those matches, the comeback against PSG, that motivated me to start this show all that time ago. And, well, I already have a show. So hopefully this motivates everyone to jump on board because FC Barcelona is as exciting, for better or worse, as it possibly gets. Welcome to episode 650 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am Dan Hilton, and yes, if you are new here and you want to see my reaction and my favorite headlines from one of the craziest matches of football I've ever seen, then this is the moment to give a like, give a comment on the YouTube channel, give a good rating on the podcast apps, or like my new $10 patrons, Lionel Messi level patrons in Tiana and Nicholas, thank you so much for being patrons. You can help me out for as low as $3 as a patron so I can keep making these shows and make more of this Barcelona content. And you can also help me out on the merch store where you get stuff like this. That's, again, another way to help the show. All right, before my heart rate slows down too much from telling you to subscribe and help me out and all that, let's get back into it. Let's get frantic. Let's get crazy. I always talk too fast anyway, so maybe I can take one big breath. We'll slow it down because I've got the 5 headlines from Barcelona's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's count them. 5-4 win over Benfica. Headline 1 is Champions League quality. We have to go back all the way to the second minute for the first of our 9 goals. That feels like an entire lifetime ago. This game started with a bit of intent, though. Very first minute, Lamine Yamal found some of the only space he found in the game and lit a long shot off, showing Barcelona's intent that they were going to be going up and down in this match. And unlike, this is the antithesis of what we saw against Getafe, and I think we can have a much larger conversation later on between Barcelona in La Liga and Barcelona in the Champions League. I feel like that's a video that I should be working on as far as the numbers and stats and all the nerd stuff. But for now, this is all about the vibes and all about the moments. Second minute is the first real moment of the game, you'd call it. 1-0, build up on the right from Benfica. And the reason why I say Champions League quality is a lot of these goals scored today for both teams were not of the highest Champions League quality, and they have a lot to do more with mistakes from one team than it does about the other team taking a goal. But I felt like for all the different blame you could throw around for this goal, this is more about the quality of Benfica here. A good cross-field ball, and it is diagonal to Carreras, getting forward from the left-back spot, a name that I'm going to be saying aplenty in these 5 headlines. He one-times it, does Carreras, the 21-year-old left-back, one-times the cross, which is really hard to stop, and then Pavlidis is making the run inside of Kubarsi and hits it one time as well. And Sedarup had occupied Araujo at the near post with a run, and just really well drawn up stuff from Benfica. Everyone doing their job to a T to get the 1-0 lead early. And I said that goal is Champions League quality for Benfica. The 6th minute, Carreras continuing to be a really outstanding player in this contest. He picks Lamine Yamal's pocket. And I can tell you, yes, Pavlidis had a hat trick before halftime, but Carreras probably was going to be my man of the match because also defensively what he was doing to Lamine Yamal. Here in the 6th minute, he picks Lamine Yamal's pocket, and then Arsnes wasn't far off with a shot that went wide. Then the 9th minute, some positives for Barcelona to give you. Casado sliding in and winning it. I thought Casado was good in this match, even when Barcelona were down 3-1. Again, I'm kind of pantomiming some of the things I was saying throughout the match, but Casado was definitely a net positive. Sliding in, winning the ball there. And then Pedri, first time pass to Lewandowski, who couldn't get it on frame, which, if they weren't PKs, was a theme for Lewandowski tonight. It starts because Benfica were zonal marking and Lamine Yamal came inside. And if they're going to play the double pivot, that being Benfica, which is what they were doing between Florentino Luis and Caju, there was space for Gabi, but only when the double pivot was handing off. Again, it was zonal marking with the exception of man marking on Gabi between that double pivot. So as they were handing off, that was the moment when either Lamine Yamal had to come inside, Rafinha had to come inside, Lewandowski had to drop in, or Gabi had to be the one to find that little bit of space in between. And it was going to be necessary for line-breaking passes from the center backs in particular to find whoever the forward was or Gabi. And that really just wasn't getting off, and I thought Benfica had a pretty good game plan for Barcelona in that first half. Headline 2 is Balde Battling. Another guy that I want to say, regardless of a win or a loss tonight, was going to get definitely a thumbs up for me, and that is Alejandro Balde, continuing his fine form. For all the nervous energy of recent matches, of drop results in the Liga especially, Balde, I think over the last 5 weeks, is maybe in the best form of his career. And I do mean career, of his 3 seasons at Barcelona so far. Terrific defending here from him in the 11th minute and doing it so calmly. Little moments that we're going to forget where he just steps in and cuts out a counterattack. But those little moments mean that we don't have to worry about Szczesny having to make a decision or Araujo Cubarsí having to slide in for a last-ditch tackle. So good stuff from Balde. And then he wins a penalty on the other side. I was asking when the referee was thinking about it, how is that not a penalty on Tomas Araujo? He stomped right on his foot, brought him down. Even if he got a sliver of the ball, he didn't really get contact with the ball. He got contact with the man. And even if he got it initially, it doesn't matter. But VAR looks at it and definitely a penalty. I agree with it. Then the 1-1. Remember, this was at this point in the game 1-1. I know we have so many more goals to talk about, but good penalty from Lewandowski. 7 goals in 7 games in the Champions League this season. Not a big run-up, which people criticized him of before, but this season he has been much shorter in his run-up, and I think that's had the same amount of success, just a few steps, and then a bunch of power, so it's 1-1. Lewandowski, on the inverse of that, while he was scoring his PKs, from open play, Lewandowski did not have the best day. He was not starting the game with great touches. And then Araujo, who throughout this match, it was definitely a Ron Araujo game. There were highs, there was the ceiling, and then there was the floor with the ball at his feet in particular. He just was not finding many great long balls, especially in that first half. 19th minute, this is, again, the highs and lows. A positive from Araujo with a good long ball to Lewandowski, and Rafinha just doesn't lead anything. Then the 20th minute, Gavi was there. Could have been 2-1 Barcelona at this moment. Stopped by Trubin. Barcelona were playing through the middle. It's just a great save. Good turn by Gavi when he received the ball from the one touch from Lewandowski. Gavi with the sidewinder, and Trubin just kind of throwing his hands up to the heavens and gets a stop there. But I'll finish the second headline by, again, reiterating in my notes on a number of different occasions. I have Casado and Balde, good tackling from both of them on a number of occasions. And this game probably could have been worse in that first half at that point when it was still 1-1, if not for those two. Headline 3 is Szczęsny Howlers. All right, here is where anybody who panics when Barcelona go down in games, well, they were taking the panic button. I don't have one. Maybe somebody can get me one. But they were just smacking the panic button, panic button, panic button. Hansi Flick, when we talk about his managerial career, this is one of those games where the players want it more than the manager wanted. I give him credit when he deserves it, but the choice of Szczesny might be one that he's going to reevaluate. If just one player winds up getting the worst for the wear from this match, it should be Szczesny. These 2 goals that were scored next are absolutely on him. The hat trick for Pavlidis is certainly on him. 22nd minute, Szczesny and Balde crash into each other, but Szczesny, he was the one who had the good side of the play. Balde was backtracking, coming towards his own goal. Szczesny has got to either get out of the way or he has to trust the defender in that position. He has to stay, not even on his line, but stay in a better position, but he was scared to be in no man's land. So, I don't know. Szczesny was a choice for Flick, but this game, he was the wrong choice. Otamendi looking for Arturoglu and Araujo playing him onside anyway. But again, Balde still had an opportunity. But Pavlidis, who picks up the trash after the collision between the two Barca players. Again, as the keeper, you can't get this wrong, but he did. That's what makes it 2-1. Then the 28th minute, less than 6 minutes later, Szczesny hadn't shaken it out. He was still being poor, and this is awful on the PK as well. Maybe it's not the worst thing I've seen in the world, but this is still a bad decision. Benfica, they again stay onside, which they were offside 5 times today, but they stay onside here. Or the man that is offside, at least, doesn't affect the play. And we saw that from Monaco in the very first game of the Champions League. This is something that Champions League quality teams do, that Barcelona, looking ahead to the knockouts now because they have qualified for the top 8, they should definitely do their homework on. And that's the one risk of the offside, onside, high line that they play, is that these Champions League sides are pretty darn good at having one man offside. So you've got, in your peripherals, you got one man offside, but having him not affect the play and having him fix where the high line is and having him be somebody to worry about, but then having the man that the ball was played to be onside. And then the man that was offside kind of gets out of dodge or gets himself completely onside until it's time to potentially make some kind of run for a rebound or whatever it is. But the man who's offside winds up not affecting the play. And Champions League sides, going all the way back to that first match against Monaco, have been pretty gosh darn good about this. But now going back to the PK that Szczesny gives up, Szczesny comes off his line. I don't know what he's thinking at that angle especially. Just stay on your line. and try to cut down the angle from your goal line. But Szczesny comes off his line, and he fouls him. He's nowhere near the ball. And I know people said they didn't make enough contact, but he blocked the path of the attackers. So it is a foul. There it is. And then Pavlidis gets him going the wrong way on the PK. First half hat trick for Pavlidis with one of them earned of the three. Here's some disgusting stats for you. Just the fourth hat trick against Barcelona in the Champions League. Faustino Asprilla, Shevchenko, both of those happening in 1997, and then Mbappe. Those are the four first-half hat tricks against Barcelona in their Champions League history. Pavlidis' hat trick for Benfica against Barcelona was the third fastest from the start of a UEFA Champions League game, only after Lewandowski against Red Bull Salzburg back in 2022, and then Marcus Simon versus Rosenborg back in 1996. So, yeah, more bad history you don't want to see. Somebody made a joke, maybe Szczesny should have stayed retired. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Now, is Osterlaga or Kocin, it's not their time just yet. You know, Kocin is a big, high-risk, high-reward. Even he's also only 18 years old, so relax on Kocin. I think the club is missing Ter Stegen at the moment, but I also think that Iñaki Peña, this should be his spot to lose. I don't know what made Hansi Flick lose faith in him, but as I've been saying for a while, Hansi Flick should have Iñaki Peña as the number one. I don't know why that is. I was also a bit let down at that moment by the leaders of the team. Araujo, Lewandowski, and Szczesny, I thought played negative parts in all of the goals and all the negativity that was happening in that match so far, and I guess silver lining is that the youthful players weren't the ones that I felt were letting the club down at that time. It was the leaders. 36th minute, another leader, even though he's young, a yellow from Gabi, maybe out of frustration, but Gabi did a good job, I must say, throughout the remainder of the game he was on the field for, not to pick up that second yellow and not to let his head get the best of him. He's been very tactical with his yellows as well. This is also kind of on the break, so I do understand it, even if it wasn't out of frustration. And Barcelona, right before halftime, did almost force a Benfica mistake. The press caused a turnover near their own net, but Rafinha went wide with a chance at the back post. And at that moment, I'm like, well, Barcelona still could be in this match. They're down 3-1 at halftime, but if Rafinha hits that chance, it's 3-2. And I know people were slamming the panic button and saying that Barcelona haven't been good enough lately, but hey, they were still in that match at that point. And I felt like if Barcelona were going to lose, it was because of the same reason against Adafe that they wind up drawing, and that is they didn't finish their chances. Headline 4, when it rains, it pours. I already started talking way too fast, and we're only 4 goals of the 9 in, so maybe let me just slow it down a second here, catch my breath, because we have a lot of Barcelona excitement to talk about here for the remainder of these 5 headlines. When I say when it rains, it pours, the skies certainly opened up there for the second half. Pedri, a chance for Koundé over the top to start the second half. I did think Barcelona started the second half with a bit of good energy. So I'm interested to hear what Hansi Flick said to his team at halftime. I don't think that will ever be revealed to the public, but he certainly probably had a few words for a few of the veteran players, maybe some of the young players as well. Barcelona also did have to do, after that good first half, some defending after that. The weather, as I said, certainly was going to make that game a bit hairy, and if you thought the 2 howlers from Szczesny in the first half were kooky, well, there was going to be a lot more happening and could happen because of that weather. 59th minute, Barca with a lot of possession in Benfica's half, but Lamine Yamal overcooks a shot. Then Pedri crossed at the back post for Lewandowski, but he couldn't get there for it. 62nd minute, here's some changes, and this is where Hansi Flick probably deserves a bit of credit for getting his subs right here. De Jong and Fermin Lopez coming on for Gabi and Casado, which with Fermin and De Jong both, I mean, yes, Gabi is playing as a 10, but both of those players are not going to be as defensive as Casado was. So with those substitutions down 3-1, Hansi Flick kind of going for it, which is good to see, even with the possession that Barcelona already had in that match. It was 75-25 at that point, and Hansi Flick was saying, hey, I know we've had possession, but I want us to go for this even more. And Casado had played well, but going for it. 64th minute, it had nothing to do with the subs. It had nothing to do with anybody but the Benfica goalkeeper. Was this the worst howler? We saw 3 howlers from the keepers in this game. Was this the worst of the bunch? Or was this just an overwhelming amount of luck for Barcelona? I don't know. Trubin goes to boot the ball forward, but instead of getting any lift on it, he doesn't. He kicks it right into Rafinha's head, and it bounces directly into his own goal. I mean, maybe Rafinha put like 2 neck muscles on this to redirect it, but somehow it fortuitously finds to even a spot of the goal that Trubin can't get to. At that point, it's 3-2 though. So I think all of the outrageous hit the panic button, gloom and doom, now there's some skepticism. And I had said there was so much time in that game that Barcelona, fortunately for them, I think they stunk early enough in the match for this to get silly. Because in the 68th minute, not long after, the 4-2. And when I say when it rains, it pours, that's when I wrote this headline. Because it was raining and it was pouring for both teams because goals just wouldn't stop going in. The 4-2, which should have been the winner for Benfica, Koundé's error this time, plus Araujo, This is the one where I feel like Barcelona gave to Benfica again. Koundé, he lets Sederup get inside him, which you cannot do, letting the man get to the goal line, even for the cross, because this isn't the cross. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a shot. I don't know. But Araujo and Szczesny going to the near post here. Araujo hits this past the keeper, and it goes in the books as an own goal. So now we've got 3 goalkeeper errors and an own goal. If you're keeping track at home, that's 4 of those. Oh, and right, and a PK. So that's 5 of the 6 goals that have been scored so far. You can't make this stuff up. This is just utter nonsense. And then headline number 5 is Silliest of Remontadas. This is the silliest remontada that I have seen in a long time, but it is a remontada nonetheless. Barcelona are down, as I reiterate. They are down 4-2. They are 3 goals away from winning in the 68th minute with 23 minutes remaining. 74th minute, here come the subs, and yeah, Hansi Flick, a little bit of a Midas touch. Did he mess up in the first half? Shouldn't he have started Peña over Szczesny? Yes. But here comes Ferran Torres and Eric Garcia on for Balde and Koundé. 2 attackers for 2 outside backs. Go for it. Play 3 at the back and see what you can do with this game. You love it from Hansi Flick. 76th minute, Lamine Yamal wins a penalty against Carreras. Definitely pulled him down. The slippery surface did not help. And at that point, I had already kind of given the applause to Carreras and said, nobody, and I think this still might be the case. I don't know if anybody gave Lamine Yamal the trouble that he has seen in his career. And I say career that Carreras had. Someone will have to tell me, at least in the comments on YouTube or hit me up on social media, if there was another player 1v1 that gave Lamine Yamal the headaches that Carreras did today. This was the closest that I've seen Lamine Yamal get to being bottled. But even here, he was not completely bottled. He gets out of the bottle long enough to win a PK because Carreras easily brings him down. That is an easy penalty call there. Lewandowski then, another solid PK, makes it 4-3. Somebody asked on Big Up in the chat if Lewandowski, even if he had a hat trick, I mean, he did score the 2 from the PK spot, but if he had a hat trick, was it still a bad game from him? And the answer is probably yes. Lewandowski probably had a bad game and still comes out with a brace, and that's what he was signed to do. I don't know what to tell you. If the results happen and he scores the goals, isn't that what his job is? And if Barcelona's playing and outplaying their opponent otherwise, as I did against Atletico Madrid, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Lewandowski, as all center forwards are, go anywhere where other fans of any other teams are and ask them about their starting striker, and I can't imagine you will find any team in world football that has said, game in and game out, I love my center forward. I love my number 9. He's constantly consistent because listen, these center forwards finished all their chances and scored every game. Well, they would all be worth $200 million and they would never leave clubs because there would only be the opportunity to sign one of them when they were 18 years old, 19 years old, because they were scoring too many goals after that. Now, here comes the 87th minute goal, the equalizer, the 4-4. Who else? We all had written Eric Garcia was going to equalize on a remontada right before stoppage time. We all had that in our little notebooks, right? Eric Garcia winning the header to save the draw at least. From the corner, it goes short to Pedri, and Barca's short corners this season haven't really been that successful, but this one is. Goes short to Pedri, and a beautiful, good delivery from Pedri to the back post. Eric Garcia out jumping Antonio Silva, who is Benfica's probably most valuable player, the center back, and I don't mean in terms of like MVP, I mean like transfer market. He is a 21-year-old center back, probably the most promising center back in Portuguese football, whose name is not Ruben Diaz, and Antonio Silva gets outjumped by Eric Garcia at the back post, and Eric Garcia he just wins the header, goes up, gets it, strong on net. Trubin has no shot. It's 4-4. Break from Benfica the other way, giving us heart palpitations. But Szczesny save keeps it 4-4. I still think Iñaki Peña makes that save too. But hey, Szczesny makes the save when he had to. It might have been offside if VAR looked at it, but they let it play on, so it would have been called a goal if he had scored in live time, so VAR would have had to overturn it. Then stoppage time. On comes Gerard Martin for Lamine Yamal. I knew Lamine Yamal was out of gas. I had said that, but also maybe just to protect that 4-4. With just a draw, Barcelona was not going to be in the top 8, but it would have changed the calculation for Atlanta. And I think if results had gone their way, maybe they would actually have qualified for the top 8 if everything had worked out for them. But anyway, Gerard Martin for Lamine Yamal doesn't mean you're going for it. And as I said, I want to reiterate, did Carreras give Lamine Yamal the toughest matchup that he has seen, at least this season? Then there was one nervy moment from Martin. Of course, Gerard Martin knows how to give me heart palpitations late, but Szczesny had him covered. Good stuff. Then here it comes. The controversy of all controversies, the most chaotic remontada that we have seen. Was it a penalty for Benfica? Was the Benfica player pushed over? VAR says no to the penalty. They took a look at it. They said no. So for all those complaining that Barcelona got, just like Real Madrid, they got some luck in the Champions League, maybe they did. But either way, Barcelona, instead of even settling for the draw, they kept playing on. The ref didn't blow the whistle, and you play until the final whistle. Ferran Torres boots it clear. Was this a clearance with an intention to hit Rafinha in stride? I don't know, but it did because it works out fortuitously for Barcelona. The clearance falls so nicely to Rafinha, who is now out in space. Rafinha, I didn't say his name much in this match review because he did not have a good match. But boy, oh boy, does that guy know how to not give up. Rafinha never gives up, never quits, and we saw it here on this goal. He finds a way to finish past the keeper, and he completely comes inside, outside on Carreras. Carreras falls to the ground while trying to make the tackle here. And this is because Rafinha had moved from the left side to the right side that he's in that position to pick up the ball where he did. As I had said from the start, Benfica finished this game with 5 shots on target and 4 goals. Barcelona, meanwhile, 11 shots on target and 5 goals. 22 shots total for them on 75% possession, over 730 passes completed on 90%. Outrageous attacking numbers for Barcelona. This game was absurd. This game was everything that that neutrals would have wanted to see. Not that my heart would have wanted to see. Again, I'm a little grayer than I was when this match started. There was optimism. There was pessimism to talk about. There was the panic button to hit for Barcelona and then to take our hands off of. And when all is said and done and the dust is settled, Barcelona have found their way into the next round of the Champions League. Fortunately for you and me, we have some time to digest this one. So take this time, take a breath, subscribe to the YouTube channel or anywhere you can find me to connect with the community. The close Facebook group, the Discord, again, Patreon. Shout out to my top level tier patrons. They help me continue to make these shows. But also join me on Big Up on Sunday against Valencia. That's 3 p.m. East Coast time. Join me for that matchup against Valencia because Valencia are at the bottom of the table. And if there's any team that Barcelona should, on paper, be able to get their winning ways back in the Liga, I don't know. If you felt like this was a game when they were down 3-1, like you should jump ship on this season, Barcelona already won a trophy. And that is what it's going to be like this season to be an FC Barcelona fan. Same with Atletico Madrid. They were down 1-0 to Bayer Leverkusen in the first half of their game with a red card, and yet they wound up coming back and winning 2-1 after Leverkusen got a win. All of these top 3 teams, including Athletic Club, making them a 4th because they're tied on points with Barcelona. All 4 of the top 4 in Spain are supremely flawed. The league is still for grabs. Champions League, there is one team, that is Liverpool. The only team that has looked better in terms of points in the Champions League and final results than Barcelona this season in the Champions League. And Barca have already won the Spanish Super Cup. So do not give up hope, but also be prepared for a hell of a roller coaster as we continue on in the second half of this season as Barcelona fans and as Kool-Aids as we are. It does not get any crazier than this one. So I hope you enjoyed these 5 headlines. I hope that at times when I was going 90 miles per hour with my words, you were able to just slow it down, maybe put me in halftime speed, whether I'm in your ears or in your eyes on YouTube. So again, thanks so much for everybody. I hope I got a lot of new faces joining me for this one. As always, until next time, Forza Barca.